Hi everybody, Douglas V. Gibbs here, Constitution guy, and let's talk about the very beginning of the Constitutional Convention. In fact, let's first go back to 1786, August, in which the Annapolis Convention was held, and the delegates discussed Shays' Rebellion, which had shown that the Articles of Confederation was not a strong enough government. They feared stronger government, but yet the government under the Articles of Confederation was too weak. So either they needed to fix the Articles of Confederation, or they needed to write a new constitution. So the date was set, May of 1787, Philadelphia, where the Declaration of Independence had been signed, Independence Hall, and all of the states except for Rhode Island sent delegates to that convention. Now, during the first 4 or 5 weeks of that convention, the arguing was so bad that nothing really got done except for appointing George Washington to chair the convention as president of the convention. And James Madison had arrived a little early and had drawn out kind of a framework for the convention, and they decided that his framework would be something that they would use, hence the reason why James Madison was later known as the father of the Constitution. The problem was nothing was getting done. The arguing was so bad that all these different issues were being discussed. Population centers versus the rural states, slavery, other issues. Number of issues were being discussed, argued, thrown back and forth. And the nationalists, and all of them at the time considered themselves more nationalists than limited government guys, wanted to make sure that their states had a fair stake in this new government, this national government. Of course, later on it would change and not be a national government, it would become a federal government. But that's for a different video. And as they're arguing, the elder statesman, 81-year-old Benjamin Franklin, is watching all of the fighting and the arguing, and he decides to speak up, and this is what he said. Mr. President, the small progress we have made after 4 or 5 weeks close attendance and continual reasonings with each other, our different sentiments on almost every question, several of the last producing as many noes as yeas, is, methinks, a melancholy proof of the imperfection of the human understanding. We indeed seem to feel our own want of political wisdom, since we have been running about in search of it. We have gone back to ancient history for models of government and examined the different forms of those republics, which, having been formed with the seeds of their dissolution, now no longer exist. And we have viewed modern states all around Europe, but find none of their constitutions suitable to our circumstances. In this situation, of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it, when presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of Lights to illuminate our understandings? In the beginnings of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for the divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered. All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of a superintending providence in our favor. To that kind providence we owe this happy opportunity of consulting in peace on the means of establishing our future national felicity. And have we now forgotten that powerful friend, or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided by our little partial local interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and a byword down to future age. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter from this unfortunate instance despair of establishing governments by human wisdom and leave it to chance, war, and conquest. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, and that one or more of the clergy of this city be requested to officiate in that service. Yes, you heard correctly. Benjamin Franklin requested that they pray before each session, that they remember the Almighty who had already come to their aid in the American Revolution. Benjamin Franklin, in his autobiography, described himself as a thorough deist. While raised in the Puritan church, he rejected that the organized church, or what the organized church had to offer. If he truly was a deist, he wasn't a very good one. While he may have questioned a few points the church offered, his relationships were with traditional Christians, and his foundation revealed, as he got older, that if he wasn't a Christian, he sure often sounded and acted like one. From his first writings to his speech to the Constitutional Convention in 1787, Franklin referred to the King James Bible quite often. He knew the Bible thoroughly, having read the entire Bible by the time he was 5 years old. His parents even considered sending him to Yale at one point, hoping he would become a minister. In his autobiography, he admitted he did not necessarily completely reject Christianity, writing, I began to suspect that this doctrine, though it might be true, was not very useful. He did, however, devote himself to a personal plan of conduct that included the practice of godly virtues. As he admitted in his speech, as he got older, he became more convinced of the truths of Christianity, including that God governs in the affairs of men. He also quoted Psalm 127, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. He recognized that without God's aid, the work they had before them would be in vain and succeed no better than the builders of Babel. The motion failed with only a few men in the room agreeing with Franklin. Alexander Hamilton led the coalition against prayer, proclaiming, we don't need any foreign aid. However, after 4 days of bickering, despite the convention having no money to hire a chaplain, George Washington led the delegates willing to pray to Philadelphia's Reformed Calvinist Lutheran Church up the road, where Baptist minister William Rogers, a pastor who had left his church to participate in the Revolutionary War as a soldier and as a chaplain, led them in the first prayer that ultimately led to the writing of the miracle, the United States Constitution. Rogers prayed, as this is a period, O Lord, big with events, impenetrable by any human scrutiny, we fervently recommend that thy fatherly notice, that august body assembled in the city, who compose our federal convention, will it please thee, O eternal I am, to favor them from day to day with thy immediate presence. Be thou their wisdom and their strength. Enable them to devise such measures as may prove happily instrumental for healing all divisions and promoting the good of the great whole. Incline the hearts of all the people to receive with pleasure, combined with a determination to carry into execution whatever these thy servants may wisely recommend, that the United States of America may furnish the world with one example of a free and permanent government, which shall be the result of human and mutual deliberation, and which shall not, like all other governments, whether ancient or modern, spring out of mere chance or be established by force. May we triumph in the cheering prospect of being completely delivered from anarchy and continue under the influence of republican virtue to partake of all the blessings of cultivated and civilized society. Once again, as from the 4th of July prayer, 1787, for the Constitutional Convention, the first prayer before after those first 4 or 5 weeks by Reverend William Rogers. Referring back to that moment, James Madison later wrote, it is impossible for the man of pious reflection not to perceive in it a finger of that almighty hand which has been so frequently and signally extended to our relief in the critical states of the Revolution. The prayers before each session of the Constitutional Convention continued through the length of the convention. And later on, the Congress adopted having a chaplain, as did the Senate, and they conducted prayers before each session. And in fact, until just recently, all legislative bodies in the United States always began their legislative sessions, be it state, county, whatnot, with a word of prayer. So Benjamin Franklin, the celebrated deist, the guy who said he was thoroughly a deist, recommended a Christian prayer to a Christian God. And what happened after that, as I said earlier, was the miracle: the United States Constitution. Thank you for watching. We'll come up with another video for you soon. Don't forget to subscribe. And when you subscribe, there's a little bell there you can hit if you want to get emails from YouTube. Also, you feel free to join my email list so that you can be advised of new videos. You can go to politicalpistachio.com, and on the right-hand side, I think it's right above the yellow donate button, is kind of a maroon reddish button that says join my email list. Hit that button, and you'll be able to fill it out and join my email list and receive an email, not just for videos, but for articles I write, and, well, not only reminders of the Constitution classes, but when I send out the reminders of the Constitution classes, I also send out the handouts. So if you can't be at the Constitution class, it's your opportunity to read the handouts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.